Advisory Board. And I would like to explain a little bit about the way we're going to do the proceedings today. Once we begin our hearing, oh, Mr. Kelly, we are on record. Once we begin our proceedings today, we will allow all the time required for your team to provide an explanation of your appeal request, the reason for your appeal request. When you have provided all the information to the board that you feel is sufficient, the board members one at a time will ask you some questions and cross-examine and ask some questions for clarity. At the end of that, we will give you an opportunity to provide any additional or closing comments that you may have. You will then be placed into a waiting room and the board will then deliberate. When them deliberations have ended, we will come back on record and we will proceed to motion and vote on record. Does everyone understand the procedures?
Yes.
Fantastic. What I would ask is one at a time, if the appellates would kindly identify themselves for the record, please.
Okay. I am Paul Gabriel. I'm the applicant. I'm working on behalf of Penn Medicine. I'm going to direct it to the design team, specifically Perkins and Will, and then they can go to JB&B, and then we'll go to the CM team.
Hi, I'm Alan Horton. I'm a senior project manager at Perkins and Will. We're the architect for the project. Ed?
Hi, Ed Rendell with Perkins and Will, senior project architect. Steve?
Yep, I'm Steve Heidengren. I'm senior project engineer with Jarrow, Spellman Balls. I'm the plumbing and fire protection design engineer on the project.
And then I'd like to make sure that Eric with Penn Medicine introduces himself, and then we'll go to the CM team.
Hi, I'm Eric Helming with Penn Med, real estate design and construction project manager for this project.
Hi, I'm Chris McGinnis with LF Driscoll. We're the construction manager of the project.
Okay, it seems we have two additional people. Could you please identify yourself for the record, please?
Tom DeCampley, MEP project manager with LF Driscoll.
And then we also have our code consultant, Jensen Hughes, on the call at Jay Prasad as well.
Hi, this is Jay Prasad, fire life safety code consultant for the project.
And then this is Pradeep Parak from Jensen Hughes, fire life safety code consultant.
All right. Very well. Thank you very much for that. Board members, prior to today, has any board member discussed any information in whole or in part with the appellate or anyone directly or indirectly involved with this case? Mike Bellata?
No.
Dave Hoffmeister?
No.
Brian Gilbert?
No.
Mike Ingram?
No.
Sarah Poindexter?
No.
And outside of staff, the chair has had no communication with any of the appellates. With that, gentlemen, whoever would like to go first, we would like you to explain the nature of your appeal and the reason for your appeal, please.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. As you speak, if you can identify yourself for the court reporter, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, sir. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
I have some documents and some I would like to walk through a little bit of the project. So let me go first to this view. My name is Paul Gabriel. I'm the applicant. I'm working on behalf of Penn Medicine. The existing building at 3600 Civic Center Boulevard is a 10-story research facility, research and office for Penn Medicine. There's currently some mixed use between office, some laboratory space. Penn Medicine has been, doing research obviously for a lot of different life-saving drugs and all the things that they're doing. And this is one of the buildings. The intent of the building construction, or the intent of the future building, is to add another 8 stories on top of this, all lab space. So again, we're modifying the existing building. The existing building has a green roof on top. We'll get into some of those details a little bit, but I want to provide context. Zoning has been approved, so we're on the path forward through the construction process. The nature of this appeal is to specifically change or to not have to modify the interior part of the building as it relates to the storm riser. Currently, it's one storm riser that goes down, multiple roof drains, and there's a scupper system. The future system will have a green roof, not a tray system, but one that we were requesting the variance to not have the secondary storm riser in the building. At that point, I'll just let the design team discuss it. Some of the existing, again, just to show the existing, this is the existing riser diagram as for the record set for the original, we'll call it the 10-story building that's in place, showing the single risers with multiple connections. This is what we would eventually be tying into. So there were other documents that we provided as part of our appeal. I want to go to the original letter that we presented that we will discuss. Some of them include the code references and the reasons why. The most important thing is that I want to discuss, and at this point, I'm going to kick it over to Stephen, is the conditions necessitating it. One, because we're moving from a tray system into a different type of green roof system, scuppers really wouldn't be appropriate because they could potentially push some of that debris over the side. Two, because we're pretty high up, the other organic material that potentially would collect up there is probably negligible because we're going to be at a pretty significant height. And those are really the two. And then number three is the alterations to the existing building would be pretty substantial to go back in and to add the secondary riser instead of what we're proposing, which is to connect them to, at a header. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Stephen to discuss a little bit more about the plumbing riser. And Stephen, if you need me to pull up riser diagrams or anything, just let me know.
I'm going to interrupt you one moment, please, if I may.
Yes.
You can take that off a shared screen. Each board member does have your narrative. If we need additional riser diagrams, we'll ask you to share it at that point. The only thing I want to add as a point of clarity, we have an address listed as 3600 Civic Center Boulevard. Your the shared screen you just brought up indicated 3603 Civic Center Boulevard. I'm not certain if there's an AKA or if this building is one and the same, but I would like to clarify it for record.
I think it's just the way that Google Maps show it. That building that we saw was 3600. It just so happened the way it looked, it's showing the other side of the street, but
perfectly fine. I just wanted to clarify for record that we didn't have an AKA that we were dealing with on the address. Thank you very much. Please continue.
Thank you. Steve, if you could jump in and start talking about the design intent, if you need me to pull up anything, I'm happy to pull it up.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so to identify myself, Steve Heidengren, plumbing design lead for the project with Jarrell Spellman Falls. And basically the existing...
Excuse me, sir. Pardon me. This is the court reporter. Could I ask you to slow down just a little bit?
Yes, sir. Apologies. So the existing building has a tray green roof system and scupper drains that allow for overflow drainage to leave the roof. The existing building only has a standard storm drain system within the building with no overflow leaders. The building was built under the 2004 Philadelphia Plumbing Code prior to our transition to the 2018 Philadelphia Plumbing Code that now applies. What we would like to request as a variance is for the storm overflow system to be allowed to be tied into the main storm drain system with the use of flow sensors within the horizontals of that overflow pipe prior to the tie-in. This would allow the building to be notified when the overflow drainage system was in use, and it would prevent any erosion of the new green roof design through the scupper system, any overloading of the low roof systems, because we're going from a building with one level roof elevation to now a high roof in the center core of the building and two low roof zones to the north and the south. This would prevent overloading of those areas through the scupper drains on the sides, or a mitigating circumstance where we would have all our scuppers on the east and west sides of that high roof, which would not necessarily allow for the full overflow drain requirement. Those would be some significantly large scuppers on those sides if we were limited to those two sides of the roof. The storm drain system is sized for a 6-inch rainfall, which is more than is required under the Philadelphia Plumbing Code for a green roof design. It's actually what's required under the Philadelphia Plumbing Code for a building with no overflow drainage at all. And so that was based on the existing system that they installed in the initial build. Those pipes, those leaders are sized to handle the 6-inch rainfall rate, which would comply if there wasn't an existing overflow drainage system. However, the existing overflow drainage system is scuppers, which we discussed as not being available or being a hardship to our new roof design with the multiple levels. The other hardship in place is fitting overflow storm leaders of that size down the building, and then finding a location at the sidewalk level to spill in a easily visually inspectable location. You could see from the street view that Paul shared, it is a glass-faced building with minimal blocked out architectural options for us to run those pipes along the building exterior. And the existing shafts within the building are quite filled up with the utilities for the existing construction, and any space in there we've had to utilize for research utilities such as vivarium bedding transfer and other items that we would have to use to get all the way down to the lower level of the building. So there's not really space in the shafts within the existing building structure to allow for the 6 overflow drain leaders that would be required.
Thank you. Anyone else from your design team? Anyone else like to comment before we proceed with cross-examinations? All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. And now, as I explained, I'll call on the board members one at a time to ask questions and cross-examine. And again, once that period is ended, if you require any additional comments, we will provide you ample time for that. I will go first with questioning. My first question is, I want to verify that on the existing building, there is no green roof now. It's a tray setup. Are there scuppers on the existing building? Do you know?
There are scuppers on the existing building, and there is a green roof on the existing building. It is just within the tray setup. It is not the design of the green roof that we will be utilizing for the new overbuild.
But there is a green roof currently on this building?
That is correct.
Okay,
A tray system,
got it.
to clarify.
Got it. Are you aware, doing research of the existing building, are the storm and sanitary systems separated?
Yes,
Do they go out? Do they exit the building independently?
that is correct.
Okay, great. I just want to make you aware that, you know, whatever happens with this hearing, I would urge you to take a look at the new backwater requirements in the 18 code for that. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. My next question, is there a basement in this building?
There are 2 lower levels below the street level. One is partially below the street level, as the street does descend across the eastern face or western face of the building.
Perfect. And do you know approximately when this building was constructed?
Well, it was finished construction in around 2018.
2018. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all I have. I appreciate your comments, and now I'll go for board member cross-examinations. Mike Bellata,
No questions.
Dave Hoffmeister.
Good morning. You had mentioned that the existing building has a green roof with scuppers, and you're proposing a new roof with a green roof, no scuppers.
Time out. Whoever Michael is, could you mute your phone? Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffmeister. Please continue.
So the existing building has a green roof with scuppers. We're proposing a new overbuild with a green roof without scuppers. What is the difference between the construction of the existing green roofs with scuppers versus the proposed green roof without scuppers?
So Alan, I'm going to direct to you. Can you answer that one, please?
Yes, the new green roof is due to the height of the building. This is Alan Horton from Perkins and Will. Due to the height of the building, the tray system won't work based on uplift. The new green roof system is an intensive system. If that helps. Any further details I can ask our project architect, Ed, to comment on. But hopefully that answers the question.
I'm personally not familiar with the difference. So if there could be further elaboration on that, so other board members understand why we're looking at a green roof with scuppers versus a green roof without. So I just want to make sure that that's very clearly conveyed.
Yeah, so sure. So the tray system is a smaller assembly. And based on the height of the existing building right now, you know, if you were to transfer that same assembly to the top of the building, the uplift based on the height and the wind conditions, based on the latitude and longitude of the building, is such that the tray system would effectively blow off the building. So that system won't work. Also, based on the height of the building and the scupper configuration was originally designed because we always knew that this building would have an overbuild. So they didn't go through the process previously, knowing that we would add an addition to the building, and it made more sense from a cost standpoint and everything else. The new green roof system is designed to actually absorb quite a bit of rainfall and overflow. Its depth and its weight is such that, based on our uplift calculations, it's sufficient as to not be removed from the roof based on wind conditions. Ed, do you want to add anything to the assembly of the green roof based on the overbuild design? Ed Rendell.
Yeah, looking for the mute button. Apologies. I think if I understand the question right, I think the best answer is that it's just much deeper soil. It retains water in a way that is far superior to the shallower system that's there now. I think Steve can probably elaborate on what that means for stormwater management, but that's the fundamental difference.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
go ahead.
With all the additional soil, you would look at similar runoff through a scupper system as you would see, you know, the water running through your front yard with loose soil rather than packed down, for instance. And so you would get a lot of brown water running off of the side of that building and would require replacement soil every so often to be added if there was large overflow conditions.
I think also the visual impact of that, given that light colored precast, which is designed for the thermal envelope of the building, it would cause a lot of streaking visually and create a visual impact as well, if we were to have a different system with scuppers for the overbuild.
I'm going to direct this question to Steve. If you could just describe to the board the methodology of the flow sensors and how they're going to work and the configuration. So you're going to have a flow sensor, you're going to have a pipe configuration of a secondary drain into a primary drain directly below the roof deck, I would assume. Can you kind of just walk the board through that?
Sure. Yeah, so our overflow drains would be adjacent to our standard storm drains in a typical configuration. They would enter, they would turn below the roof and adjoin horizontally through a Y fitting. We would put a flow sensor that we would mount a few inches above the bottom of that pipe, so that it wouldn't activate in the event of just minor transfer through the soil horizontally into that overflow drain system, but rather during an actual overflow event. So we will determine with Penn Facilities how frequently that sets off, and they could investigate and see if there was an actual clog. And that would allow us to fine tune that to the point where they can actually have the building monitoring system identify a true overflow condition. but that could be either a flywheel, flow sensor design, or it could be just moisture monitoring through wires mounted halfway up the horizontal run of that pipe.
Yeah, for some reason I envisioned like two probes.
Yep.
But again, that it mentions that would be connected to BMS, BAS.
Yeah, so the building alarm system would notify the building maintenance personnel that the overflow drains were in use. That is to simulate the effect of that drain spilling in a visually observable location.
Is the BMS system designed to date?
We have not issued the full building for construction at this point, so it's still under design.
Understood. And will that BMS system have backup power?
Yes, it will.
And my final question, you had confirmed, and I have, and I will, but I have not yet back checked the riser to confirm that the existing building is sized for 6 inches per hour, you stated?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Walt, no further questions.
Thank you, Dave. One follow-up that I have, just hearing that your answers, you're stating that your concern with scuppers would be brown streaks coming down the side of the building. That would only be in an emergent situation. Them scuppers would only take effect in the event that the primary system fails. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, so that's correct. That would, major use of the scuppers would only happen in that condition, but with wind-driven rain on the surface of the building and the design of the green roof, you will get some water leaving those scuppers in a regular windy rain situation. That water could contain, again, quite a bit of eroded dirt.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Mike Ingram.
No comment.
Thank you. Brian Gilbert.
All right, I have a question, two actually. With the BAS, you are proposing that there's an alarm that alerts the BAS. Does the BAS alert either a building engineer or alert in the building engineer's office?
I am not the controls engineer on the project, but I believe so. Based on boilers within the building, it is a fully staffed maintenance building. And so that alarm would either be in the staffed office, or I believe there's optionality for that to alert a text message to the head of building maintenance and then building engineering.
So it would be constantly monitored.
Correct.
Okay. My other question here is your concern of brown water going over the side of the building in an event of an overflow or wind-driven rain. Is there a possibility of soil entering the stormwater system? And if there is, what are you doing to prevent that or protect the rainwater system from soil from your green roof entering the system?
Yeah, so we're using a fine mesh shield on the roof drainage system, both for the standard roof drain and for the overflow roof drain. That would extend up through the full height of the soil in a ring around the roof drain itself. So that's a standard green roof design to mitigate soil transfer into the roof draining system.
The drain has the stainless steel ring and holes in it, and you're going to wrap that in a mesh, and only surface water is the intent is going to go over after the green roof fills. Surface water, preferably without soil, is going to enter the drainage system.
Correct.
No further questions.
Thank you. Sarah Poindexter.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Bill Dobbins.
No questions.
Thank you. Michelle Brisbane.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Gledhill.
No questions.
Thank you. And Shane McNulty.
No questions.
I have one quick follow-up question, Walt.
Go ahead, Mike.
Since you guys are going to be doing more of a intensive green roof, is that going to be irrigated?
So for lead credentials and certifications, the green roof, since it's designed to hold water, is going to use rainwater as primary irrigation, but hose bibs have been provided for emergency situations.
Okay.
Should irrigation be required to maintain the life of the vegetation.
Board members, any follow-up questions?
I have a quick question. You mentioned surface drainage in the design of your drainage system for this green roof. The depths of the soil, I'm just going to say, let's say it's 18 inches deep. Is there provisions for drainage at the bottom of that depth as well as the top? Or is there, sometimes I've seen green roof drain boxes. How is that drain system configured from roof up, I'll say?
The drain system will be very similar to green roof boxes, where it's designed for the surface water flow. And the green roof itself, the roof is designed for the weight of the retained water in the soil.
Thank you.
Board members, any follow-up questions? All right, I do have one. As part of the green roof approval process, is there a written maintenance program provided that would have to be adhered to by building personnel or by a person certified in green roof technology?
I'll defer that to Perkins and Will or UPHS.
Hey, this is Alan from Perkins and Will. We have, so a couple of things. We have a commissioning agent on board and a full commissioning specification for the project that includes, as well as the architectural specifications information on building maintenance and maintenance protocols to achieve LEED Gold. So I think we're approaching that in 3 different ways, based on the green roof specifications, based on the LEED approach, and also the existing stormwater management configuration and everything that's going into the commissioning process.
Well, can I just add, and not to speak for Bill, but this is also for stormwater credits through PWD, is that correct? The stormwater management system?
The existing building stormwater management system, as well as the green roof, will be utilized for credits. That is correct.
Okay, so with that approval, Walt, there's an ownership and maintenance agreement that runs with the deed of the property and has like a maintenance, should have a maintenance guideline that goes with that.
Sarah, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. If no other board members have any redirect, I will ask for any additional or closing comments from the design team or ownership team. Does anybody have anything else for us?
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
just add, it's Alan from Perkins and Will. That assembly is actually less than 18 inches, just for the record. Overall, it's a 12-inch assembly that includes 6 inches of insulation with only a 6-inch extensive garden roof with self-generating sedums in the event that that's helpful information for the group.
So that the media, I'll call it, is only 6 inches deep.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And gentlemen, we do have a member of our board who has extensive knowledge in this area, but unfortunately was unable to join us today, which is unfortunate because this is definitely right in his wheelhouse. But so thank you very much for your testimonies, your comments, your extensive explanations. The board certainly appreciates that. As I mentioned earlier in the explanation, now we will be placing you into a waiting room, and the board will deliberate and then call you back in when our deliberations have ended. All right, Mr. Kelly, we are now off record. Board members, we're going to take a 5-minute recess while Phil record. Good morning again. We're continuing to hear case number MI 2022-006-364 for the address of 3600 Civic Center Boulevard. Gentlemen, thank you for your patience. The board is completed with our deliberations. We are now back on record. Board, what say you?
Walt, I motion to approve the variance request permitting the secondary roof drainage to tie into the primary roof drainage system with provisions to be read by the board chairman.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Walt, I second that motion.
Thank you. The provisions for approval will be as follows. The sensors for the overflow storm drainage are to be part of the building management system is the first provision. The second provision, the building management system is to have a backup power source in the event of power failure. The third provision for approval would be there will be no mechanical means of detection on the overflow drainage system. And lastly, the fourth provision is the sizing of the storm lines shown will be resized to utilize 6 inches of rainfall or the old 2004 code, which the building was constructed under. Appellates, do you understand or have any questions on the provisions that we've explained?
No questions.
No
Are the
questions.
appellates and owners' representatives agreeable to the provisions for approval?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yes.
with that, the board will proceed to vote. The vote will be in the affirmative to approve the variance request based on the provisions added into record. Mike Bellata,
Approve.
David Hoffmeister,
Approve.
Brian Gilbert,
Approved.
Mike Ingram,
Approve.
Sarah Poindexter,
Approved.
and the chair votes in the affirmative. Gentlemen, your variance request has been approved by the Plumbing Advisory Board based on the provisions that we've explained. From this point forward, our recommendation will go to back to the commissioner for his follow-up approval, and you should hear from board personnel within about a week or so. If you don't hear from board personnel within a week or so, you can then feel free to contact the board's administrator. All right, any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate the time.
we appreciate you coming in to see us. And this will officially conclude case number MI 2022-006-364. Thank you and have a nice rest of your day. Mr. Kelly, we are now off record. Mr. Motto, if you could remove the appellates so we can continue with our meeting.
Thank you for the board's time.